Hello and welcome. My name is Julie, and this Pick a Reflection reading is going to be about how fair relating can be applied to this relationship. So, one thing that's kind of, I think, worthy of mention or spurring me to want to do this reading is sometimes as we shift our own inner world, there are people in our life that shift right along with us. Meaning, if there's a soul contract for somebody to show up as the antagonist to our needed activation or our trigger, if someone has agreed to come in and trigger us, then once we heal that trigger within us, that misunderstanding that caused us to loop in an old energy, then that person can show up differently, meaning they don't have to be the antagonist to our trigger anymore if they've served that role for us. So I want to kind of address the fact that sometimes we're going to be shifting our energy and our timelines and our relationships. And one important thing is to allow those relationships to change. I've learned this through experience of dealing with, healing karmic patterns through my own family line and seeing how that changed my relationship with my family members. And I talk about it in terms of family because family is something where a lot of people don't want to give up on toxic family members, and I would say that nobody's actually toxic, that we have toxic relating patterns that we can alchemize. And I will also say that sometimes people are not willing to change their behavior or alchemize their relating or dysfunctional relating patterns. And those could even be our family members. So I don't think it's a universal truth that it is always the case that when we shift, someone else will also shift or they'll show up differently in our lives. It's not always the case. But through my experience with my family, I learned that it is often the case. And it is sometimes the case. And so even knowing this lets us kind of pull back any expectations for others in our lives and let them show up into an experience with us and let the experience impress upon us what it is, instead of deciding ahead of time based on previous experiences or having expectations based on previous experiences or what we hope somebody is, what we want them to be. And it doesn't mean that we will have experiences that we don't like with somebody repeatedly and then still continue to give them chance after chance after chance. I'm not saying that either. It is totally up to us to use our own discernment and decide where it is appropriate to open up the field and allow ourselves to relate in a new, higher manner to see if that is something that someone else is willing to meet us with. And I'm saying this because we've just gone through this 11:11 doorway or portal or energetic shift, and this could have really changed things for each of us in our lives. In fact, I've noticed it already in my own life, and it also makes it easier to see when people aren't able to relate to you in a fair manner, and it makes you able to see your own patterns much easier. And you can also see that if you don't hold someone to the old expectation, that they can show up different. So let's just keep that in mind as we look at this reading. We have 3 picks, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to be looking at adding fair relating to this relationship. I've pre-shuffled some cards for each pile. I'm probably just going to record 1 pile today, 1 tomorrow, 1 the next day, or 1 pile today and 2 tomorrow, depending on my schedule. So I am ready to record pick one now, and if you chose pick one, I'll see you there. Otherwise, I will see you at your reading. Hi, pick one. You chose this little rose here. I don't know if it's going to focus. No, we're not going to focus on that. So there may be some confusion or blurriness or just lack of clarity in this relationship that we're going to look at for you. So I'm glad that we're looking at it. Remember, this is a general reading, so just take what pertains to you as information to reflect on. You've got the time frame of 48 hours. Feel it. You may have been activated into some sort of something in the last 48 hours, which has caused you to respond and maybe even want to create a solution to some issue. Maybe the solution has been to walk away. And here we have reunion. Interesting. So maybe you're coming back together with someone you have walked away from previously. And if you're in a cycle of this, maybe that cycle did just happen again, right? Those cycles where we break up to make up kind of thing. We have nemesis. So this is someone that you see as opposite of yourself, or you see as having ill will towards you, perhaps. Someone that stands for the opposite of what you stand for, perhaps. This is definitely something that your soul came to experience and gain wisdom from. And you have been all along, as you've been alchemizing within the context of relating with this person. This person could be your father or father figure, somebody else's father, somebody that you know's father. It also could be taking place between you and a friend of a friend. It could be a potential relationship, so someone that you were just considering or dating, or someone you haven't even met yet. And you're getting a heads up about that. Or a guide, so somebody that you went to for guidance, perhaps an authority figure, perhaps your spiritual guide, perhaps it's like how you're relating to the spirit realm in general, or how you're relating to someone who has served as a guide to you, or that you've been a guide to. Okay. Let's look at some other things about this. We have 3 is a crowd, so perhaps there's some sort of influence of a third party. Maybe 2 people are ganging up on one, or the dynamic change between you and somebody else when someone else is present. Who are you in this situation? You're someone who's really willing to make changes where needed. You are an alchemist. You want to take action. You're ready to when it's appropriate to do. Maybe you've got something to communicate to this person. You're not ready to let it go. Maybe you don't even see it as an option, as letting it go might not even be an option to you. Maybe you've tried to let it go and you weren't able to. Okay. Who is the other party? Someone who's completing a cycle. Someone who is acting in an expected manner, who might be dealing in power struggles and or who you see as very strong. You might feel like it's someone who has power over you or authority over you, and they might be dealing in unfair ways, like power struggle ways, like pulling your strings or, you know, pushing your buttons kind of thing. But this does seem to be a very... they have a big role in your life somehow. So even if this was a potential relationship, it's going to be one that matters. Even if it's a friend of a friend, maybe that's something you're witnessing as a dynamic between these two people, and you're the third party. It could be something like that, but let's get into it a little more and see how it resonates for you. I like that when I said see how it resonates for you, I look and there's the card that says see. We've got dog and best friend. So one party might have a dog. Zoom out for the big picture view. So you are embroiled in this situation. It might be hard to see it clearly. Maybe your loyalty to the situation comes because that's what you feel like true love is. Yeah, here we have more indications of that authoritarian kind of energy in one of the parties here. Looks like the other party, and of course you can switch it if you're the other party, then take that as you. Maybe this person has expectations of you to, like, take full responsibility for yourself and isn't really expressing a lot of care or friendliness. It could feel like you're putting a lot into this relationship without a lot coming back towards you. It's very out of balance. Could be a family member, and it could be that nobody is admitting that it's out of balance. That it's just kind of like unsaid, that you just go along and act content. Archangel Michael is saying there is a favorable outcome to this situation. Okay, there is a question that we're going to get the answer to if you want to think of your question. So this whole situation is kind of set up in your life from a soul level to awaken you to certain skills and gifts that you have, certain things that you're able to do that you wouldn't have otherwise been aware of had you not had this situation. I think you've been practicing gratitude, so even if something got out of balance because a third party got involved, I think that you've, stayed hopeful and stayed open to the idea that it is going to work out. Maybe, you felt like a third wheel or something in a situation with a family member since they got a significant other or something like that. But you do know there's a solution, and so you have been willing to rise above the problems here. You are an individual, you know that, and I think that's working to your advantage here. I think you're open to miracles, and you understand that you just have to be open to a solution, and you will find your way to it. Yeah, this is opening you to a higher level of awareness, which you're forced to look at when you face those discomforts that become apparent in this situation. The answer to your question is protect assets. So maybe the third party that's been brought into the mix here is preying on your loved ones' weaknesses or, shadows. And maybe you can see that, you know, and maybe it's got you in this kind of messed up situation because you're meant to be friendly and supportive, but you see something that your loved one doesn't see. It could be a situation like that. What needs to be said? This is something that happens on Earth. You are impressive. Like, maybe it's even impressive to you that this person has your loved one fooled. I can't be honest. Yeah. You're not able to express that you see the sneakiness or the underhandedness or the unhealthiness of something that's going on. But you do know it. I know the truth. You don't know it all, but you know something. Yeah, there's more to know here, okay? You know that you don't know it all. So how can you add fair relating to this relationship? It says, express care for the other's best interest. Share what you have learned and or decided. Or discern if the other has care, has learned, and grown. Like, you might be able to look and see, has this person figured it out? Do they realize what they're learning in this situation? And if that's not the case, then maybe you can say, like, look, I care about you, and I care about what happens to you. This is what I've kind of observed, and this is what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to stay and support you, or I'm going to take some space until you figure it out, or I'm probably not going to hang out with you when so-and-so's there. You know, I don't know what it is for you, but there might be something like that. Ask for clarity of intentions. It could be of your loved one or of the third party or of yourself. What are your intentions? Like, are you really, is it your intention to protect the other? Do they need your protection? Is your intention to be a protector because you get value from being a protector? You know, just really look at it within yourself and see what you can adjust within yourself first before you have expectation of anyone else making changes. And then honor yourself. So whatever it is that you're feeling, honor that. And then honor them. It's like, you know, think about all of the experiences that you had to have in order to learn what you know now. And isn't it true that, you know, those were very valuable and you needed those experiences to learn what you know now? And could it be true that this other person that you're concerned about also needs this experience? Now, does say a favorable outcome, and the other party does seem to be very, very strong, very capable, very steadfast, and so maybe they're already on to what's happening, right? Maybe they're already into a plan. Like, there's a lot you don't know here. So I would say use this situation as a mirror for you and see what you can see about yourself first, before you try to interject into the situation. Okay? And I think that's going to be pretty easy for you to do because I think you're in the habit of doing so. I think you know things are able to work out, and I think you have a lot of confidence in this other person. Okay. Wow, very interesting. All right, pick one. Thank you for being here. Remember, it's just information to reflect on, so only take what's helpful to you and leave the rest. We'll see you in a future reading. Hello, pick two. We are looking at how you can add fair relating to this relationship. Let's take a look at your energy in this relationship. Of course, you can reverse these if you find that this resonates more as the other person. But we have I have to pick it up to see it. Knight of Cups in reverse. Okay. The Knight of Swords in reverse. You're holding back. And the Eight of Cups in reverse. You're holding back, but wondering if you should be. Wondering, is this is this something to invest in? Is this something, it's like you don't want to give up, but you don't really know if you should be investing. And maybe it's an offer that doesn't seem appealing, like that you shouldn't take, but you'd just like to understand the situation better or something. Okay. Let's see. Guys, bear with me. My throat chakra is like opening up. Okay, they've got the Knight of Cups in reverse too. And the Seven of Swords in reverse. And the Chariot. Okay. So maybe they've come towards you, but they're not coming towards you with like open arms towards love or anything. Like you might sense that there's those feelings, but they're being held back. And you also might sense that there's some sort of sneakiness around this person, but they're not showing it on the surface either. It's like, is this a potential for an affair or something? I mean, it may or may not be, so only take that if it resonates. Let's get into the cards more and see what else. Honor. So it's kind of like both parties are really honoring themselves, and whatever feelings and emotion is kind of below the surface of yourself. Like each party is doing that for themselves. Like this interaction has obviously caused some sort of feelings, and it's for whatever reason not allowed or not forthcoming. It's not clear exactly yet. You know, it could be different things for different people. It could be fear keeping it held back from previous experiences, or it could be that, you know, it's not appropriate for the relationship that you have. What needs to be said? Oh, jeez. Yeah, like there may even be an element of shaming self for having these feelings and things like that, especially on the other person's part. Like if you had come on to the other person, they don't like that. But if they had come on to you, they don't like that either, and you don't like that. There is some sort of heartbreak being highlighted here, whether it's that the lesson's already been learned, so this is like, oh no, ain't going there, or this is highlighting it, like the fear of coming towards each other is due to previous heartbreak. It could be for some people. Let's look at, oh, interesting. There's a lot of unknown here. A lot of unknown. Lots of unknown. Okay. So maybe this is someone you don't know very well. These are the potential relationships that are coming up for this. A relative of a friend. A service provider. So just someone who did some work on your house or had a phone conversation with, for all I know, you know. Excuse me. Relative of a friend would be someone that like you may have come in contact with when you were at a friend's event, or an actual friend, or even a departed loved one. So in that case, you know, what could be keeping you from being able to express to each other is the fact that, you know, one person is on the other side of this veil that is life. Okay. So just take these as they resonate. If one of these resonates for you, then that would be the relationship we're talking about. Let's see, do I want to take these in reverse? I guess I'm going to take these in reverse. Okay. So this is all kind of bringing up information to reflect on about the divine feminine energy. So the darker, like wounded feminine might use seduction in relating to another, or maybe try to make themselves more appealing, or maybe viewed as an object, you know. Things like that could be brought to the surface in these interactions. We've got reconciliation and reunion in the reverse as well. So if you were hoping to like come back in contact with this person for more, this is in reverse. So I don't think necessarily it's at least not in this card, you know. If it's a departed loved one, of course, eventually you're going to come back together. If it's a friend and you're apart right now, like, it's not right now that you're going to be coming back together with this person. If someone was just doing service for you, you're probably not going to be coming in contact with them again anytime soon. And relative of a friend is also not, it's not showing here that you're necessarily going to come back in contact with this person. So say you interact with somebody and they evoke in you, trigger in you, activate in you very strong feelings. This could be a gift to you from a soulmate who got your attention long enough for you to kind of be uprooted in some stagnant energies that had been there without your knowledge. And now that they're up and uprooted and in your awareness, it's time to actually do the work with them, right? Do your shadow work. Acknowledge, validate, accept, be present with whatever it is you're feeling. And love you through it, you know what I mean? And apply fair relating. Well, isn't it lovely that we have 3 fair relating cards to look at, but first we're going to look at some more information because I've got all of these oracle cards to look at. So even in the fact of realization of like this is not coming back together, be it just a passing person who activated feelings in you that were very strong, or an actual loved one that has departed, this is going to be something where you'll need to also process feelings of grief and ending. You know, even if it was just a service provider in passing that activated these feelings in you, it's still a gift for you. If you have buried grief that's not been processed, it's a beautiful thing that someone could activate it in you for you to process it, you know? Excuse me. You may not realize that you have this ability to alchemize, heal, transmute these things that you feel. But that is what the purpose of this has been. Especially if you're looking at it from a much more, I would say, traditional or 3D level, a human way of looking at, like a strong feeling that you'd have from a person in passing it's exciting. It evokes it evokes some sort of like what feels like life, you know, in you. So it's understandable to kind of look at it from that level, but this is inviting you to look at it from a higher level. It also can put you in touch with what you'd prefer, what you do want. Like, if you have this, like, interaction with somebody, and even if it's not meant to come together with them, if it evoked in you all this feeling of like, oh, I want this for my life, I want to be in a romance, I want to have a family, you know what I mean? Like, then just to awaken that in you to the realization that you're going to be welcoming of that in your life could be the gift. So all of those feelings, especially if you have fears around them because of a previous broken heart, those will also have to be dealt with. And if you are dealing with the loss of a departed loved one, the memories that you have can also help you process the grief, right? Because you're not just left with the loss of the loved one, you're also left with the memories of the story that you lived with them. So this kind of process of being aware and awakened and acknowledging what you're feeling and then processing through it, no matter who or what storyline you are falling into in this reading, brings you to this point and this potential of something new. We're going to answer a question for you so you can think of your question. We'll flip that in a moment. Archangel Michael says eternal love, meaning like this is a departed loved one or friend. This is someone that you love on a soul level, that loves you on a soul level. And this love never dies. So even if this person isn't playing a continuous role in your life now, it may be some comfort for you to know that this is a soul level love that it actually exists on. We've got karmic relationship. Yeah, it taught you something. And it also brought up energies for you to process. And it's time to process those, because those energies and the wisdom you gained from processing those energies will be useful to you as you proceed on to something new. This is helping your soul grow. Sometimes it's an inner conflict that you're trying to work out that's helping your soul grow. Like you're figuring out who you are, what's important to you, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and what is important to you. Those kind of things come up when you have to decide if you're going to go on in life after you've lost someone that you love, or if you come in contact with somebody who's married and you feel a strong attraction, you figure out who you are and who you're not. And what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? If you have a weakness towards being inclined to indulge in lower lustful endeavors just because that part of your energy was elicited, that's something you want to know about yourself, because you want to decide, like, due to the consequences of something like that, which can often lead to heartbreak, you'd want to decide how you want to proceed when one of your weaknesses showed itself, right? It's not just like we succumb to our weaknesses, it's we become aware of who we are so that we can love ourselves right where we are and then work to be the best we can be given what we're working with. Okay, this answer to your question is change the story. So you may be telling a story like, oh, I never get the girl, or oh, I never get the guy, or oh, it never works out, or it always ends bad, or love hurts, love stinks, or I can't have another love like that, or everyone else gets what I want, or it's always just a near miss, or I'm not good enough, or they weren't attracted to me because I looked crappy when they came to my house to service my plumbing, or like whatever story you're telling. Like we've got weaving a story is poking out here too. Weaving a love story. Like change the story that you were telling is the answer to your question, because you have more control in your life and in the creation of the life that you're living than you may have been giving yourself credit for. Now, yeah, you don't control other people, but you do control yourself and your own story. Pay attention to signs. So maybe even the person that you were interacting with, there were a lot of signs, right? Maybe that's why you thought there must be something more to it. I was led right to them. I was seeing all the signs. There were so many synchronicities. I saw 11:11 on the clock, and like whatever it was for you. Just because we're led into a situation that doesn't go the way we expect doesn't mean that it wasn't a beneficial situation for us. Our soul is trying to help us learn what we came to learn. And our human is programmed with a lot of coping mechanisms that are just there to avoid pain and fear and confusion. But avoiding pain, fear, and confusion can often conflict with what our soul came here to achieve, accomplish, and learn about. And so in these cases, we see there's a conflict between what our human expectation is and what our soul actually came here for. So it's up to you if you want to fight against your own soul or succumb to that bigger picture view that your soul has. And there's something even bigger than your soul, right? There's this highest version of yourself that's an even bigger aspect than your soul that can also guide you. So I do believe that it's possible to renegotiate what your soul came here to do and intend. But it's not necessarily the best thing to do from a human level without consulting the highest version of yourself, right? So you'd have to really be in touch with that part of yourself before you start making and dictating changes of that manner, in my opinion. But it's just coming to terms with there is a biggest picture view, there will be signs, and sometimes the signs are not leading you towards what your human self wanted, but more towards what your soul actually intended. Okay. Parenting and children. So some of these coping mechanisms that our human version of us develops in order to survive come from having to survive and learn about living in the environment that we grew up in, the one where we were when we were a child. So the parenting methods used are going to greatly influence how we navigate life. Sometimes our soul's intention is to break free from that. You've heard the term cycle breakers and things like that. Sometimes the soul wants to experience that for a while and then break free from it. Sometimes the soul wants to conform to that for its whole entire existence. So you'll know best for you. But this is just an acknowledgement that some of the ways that you're coping are literally just downloaded to you from the environment and due to having to find ways to live within the family you were in and cope within the dynamics that were present in the family and the parenting style. So if you saw mom always trying to seduce dad, or if you saw dad going outside the marriage, or if you saw mom trying to seduce the service providers, or if you saw that friends were never really friends, they were actually options for romantic interludes, whatever it is, it could be influencing the way that you look at life. And so certain circumstances are going to come along to let you look at things different. If you saw, that your parents were devoted to each other until the end and would never have entertained having a second partner after one of them passed on, then you may think that that would be for you too. But it may not be according to your soul, right? So it may be time to change the story about what your future is and what your present is and what your past has been. Yeah, this is saying let go. Okay, so we did talk about this isn't going to be coming back together. And so in the case of a departed loved one, of course, you know already that you needed to let go. And that's probably the process of what you're doing. But, I would argue that, you're never really letting go from a soul level. What you're doing is letting go of the old story. You're letting go of the grief-ridden story that causes you to suffer or feel like a victim or feel like you're in lack. Okay, so, and if it's a friend or someone that you met in passing or, thought there might be a potential with, it's also a let go. Because we don't control other people. Some of these interactions that we've had are just for a time, Today I share my abundance with someone who needs a gift of kindness. Yes. And this is kind of like a redirection, right? It's like all of this that you've experienced is wisdom that you've gained, and now you go forward in life as an example of someone who has traversed difficult situations such as this one and who understands a bit more about how it works and how it feels, and that right there can give you a perspective that makes you more compassionate towards certain people who may be suffering the similar experiences, or it might just lift you up to a point where you feel like you have more of a filled up cup because you've you've realized that it's more important to put your focus back in on yourself, loving yourself. You've loved yourself through a difficult situation, and now your cup is filled up and you are ready to give back whatever is overflowing in the form of kindness to whomever you encounter that needs it. So it's like, it's an invitation. It's not necessarily that you want to do this work so that you're ready to serve others and be kind to others, but this is just kind of saying, like, life does go on and you still have a lot to offer others. The fact that you're a kind person here on earth is so valuable. You know what I mean? Like, I'm literally, as I say that, I look up and this plaque that I have, this word, for kind, is staring back at me. And I was also brought to this card that I have that's not on the board because I didn't use that deck in this reading, but it's a card that says kindness counts. And what I say to people when that card comes out is that you're a kind person, and that counts for a lot. And when you look at the state of the world and what the world is, it's like that is a beautiful and needed contribution. And so it's important. And I think this is just kind of saying, like, as a side note, you are dealing with this personal drama and dilemma and work that you're doing on yourself, but also remember, not only are you a kind person, but there are kind people out there too. Oh, and that, what I was thinking was like how it creates ripples and how you're part of the ripples, and then this says your great wave awaits. And so as you create these little ripples, there's going to be some sort of wave that comes to carry you through this new story that you tell for yourself. Like, so whatever you're inspired to next, you will be carried to. And what you have been through with this relationship better prepares you, I would say, for it. All right, so the fair relating that you can apply to this relationship. Name 3 ways the opposite is also true. Okay, so I met this person. We had an intense connection. I've never felt this way before. Name 3 ways the opposite is true. Or, I was married. I love this man. This is the only man I'll ever love, and now he's passed on. I can never love another man. Name 3 ways the opposite is also true. And that's just an experiment in thought to help you loosen up and balance out energy of the story that you're telling. And then be brave. So you are going into unknown waters, right? Like when a big wave comes and swoops you up, it can be a little bit intimidating, especially when you don't know where you're going to land. So this is be brave, meaning, yeah, you're going to go into a scary situation now. Like if you held the fantasy of being with somebody that was just in passing, or that, you had a friendship with first, and then that fantasy was something that was comforting to you and that you lived in and was secure to you. But stepping out of that takes bravery, because now you're back into the unknown, right? And same thing for if you were in a secure relationship and a loved one passed on, you knew what that relationship was. You felt secure in the relationship that you had, but now you have to step into the place where you don't know. And celebrate how far you have come, okay? Because this has been quite a journey. Everything that you've been through has led you to this point, and it is worth celebrating that you've gotten this far, okay? Well, pick 2. Remember, this is just information to reflect on. And it's meant to be helpful, so just take what is helpful for you. And I'm looking over here at my lighter here. And it looks like a wave, right? And And it just matches this card right here, and it also brings me to this reminder of pay attention to the signs. They're everywhere. They really are everywhere. And you just kind of get in tune and get slowed down with yourself, and you really can be led when you surrender to being in the moment. And we really can only do that when we let go of the karmas, when we let go of the patterns that we developed to cope in the environments that we grew up in. We can come back to the present moment and live from there. Okay, pick 2, that's going to complete your reading. Thank you so much for being here. I honor you and your process. Hello, pick 3. We're looking at how you can add fair relating to this relationship. And I'm going to start with the oracle cards on this one. Emotional creation, divine timing. I'm just going to lay out some of these cards first and see what's up. Commitment, marriage. Dig for treasure. Open book, honest, authentic. Solid union. Okay. Well, wow. So this is someone that you're in a commitment with, or could be, or were with. Or will be. Or there's a potential for it. Let's see. I think I'm going to go to these next. Responsibility, house guests. And joint venture, but that came in reverse. So maybe you haven't started this yet, right? Like maybe you're just living together. Let's see who you are in this relationship. You are the Queen of Swords. Of course, you can reverse it if this sounds more like the other person. The Queen of Pentacles in reverse. So you have a lot of say, but maybe you're not the financial provider or the breadwinner necessarily. Or you're, just in the beginning stages of your financial security. You may be not wanting to join into a financial endeavor, or but it does look like you're willing to move forward in a fair manner. But mostly it's your intellect and your kind of like wisdom leading you. This other person does seem like when I was pulling cards for this other side, it was like, is this person overbearing or what? Like does this person kind of take over? But let's see. We've got the Four of Pentacles. So there's a money issue between you guys, I think, in that maybe you were really both set in your ways about how to handle your finances. This other person is willing to look at another point of view. They may know that you have some wisdom that they don't have, or they're willing to learn, because I think that they've got the Queen of Swords as well. So maybe you do butt heads sometimes with ideas, but they're the one that is more willing to consider new ideas. And there's something here where there's heartbreak, Three of Swords. Yeah, so it seems like there might be trouble in this relationship, and it's stemming from money issues or something not being enough, or maybe one party being really set in their ways and stubborn while the other one feels like they're doing all the compromising, and not being respected, and it's causing them to be penny pinching, or more frugal, or holding back, feeling like they need to hold on to what they have. especially if the other person seems to be more dependent on them financially and it's burdening them and hurting them, that there's just an expectant kind of energy in this partnership. And it's like maybe you or the first party wants more, wants to open up into more, while the second party feels like, hesitant and is looking for like more information or more like ideas on how to work through this issue. Let's see what else. Interesting. We got drug dealers. This is from the 8th house deck, things we don't talk about. So there could be some sort of, sales, drug sales, or like someone could be on medication. It could be as simple as that. It could be someone having to pay for somebody's prescriptions, or somebody providing or enabling somebody to continue in an addiction. It could be that you've been both selling, or someone wants to start selling something to someone else, and that's maybe starting an issue. I think you're really just in contemplation. You're really just trying to work things out, and like you're in a self-protective mode. Like this person over here is in the self-protective mode. This person is too. This person feels more authoritarian. And this person has actually got their heart invested in it. Yeah, you're not able to work together on something particular within the relationship. And I think the second person is really trying to look at the details and like figure something out about it. Like there's going to be a question you can ask. We'll get the answer in a moment. Archangel Michael says, forgive yourself, you've done nothing wrong. So both parties here are just doing their best, right? And looks like some issues are being brought to the surface. And these issues would lie within each of you. Like each person is responsible for acknowledging their own difficult feelings that arise. This person doesn't, maybe just working on logic though. It could be you or whoever this first person is. It seems like they're much more logical. They might not be capable of getting their heart in it so much, or maybe doing that strategically for a purpose. We've got baby steps. Follow your intuition before it makes sense. So I think there is an openness to do what's right. And it's like if your intuition is telling you something, you can follow that. You can trust that. You're having dreams and visions, and those are meant to help you and guide you and let you see a part of yourself or where you're headed. And also what you're visualizing for the future matters. Like, how do you think this story is going to turn out? If you have fears, it's like those are there so that you can look at them and love yourself through them. Let's get the answer to your question. Plan for change. So however it is now, it's not going to be that way. But it does matter what you tell yourself about how you're handling it, about what it all means to you. If you can open yourselves to the miracle, then that can play out. This came in reverse, interestingly enough, and it says, say yes to your open door. So like, while it's not open for a reason, right? Things have to be kind of clarified here. But when it opens, then you're safe to go. What needs to be said? Leave me alone. Like if someone needs space, you've got to say that. You are my favorite. If you do value somebody and you need to reassure them that you're not looking elsewhere, or that, you are in a committed relationship, this is something that should be communicated to be helpful. Let's explore together. let's move in together. So some of you may not already be moved in together, and that may be the issue, because that would cause you to have to depend on each other more financially. And it's like maybe one is trying to seduce the other into it, or strategically charm them into it, or something like that. And maybe that doesn't feel right because it's bringing up old wounding patterns. There's a lot of unknown. That means a conversation is waiting to be had to clarify some of these unknown things. And this relationship could be happening between two professionals. You could have somebody who is a stalker. This could be a brand new connection, so it could be like someone's rushing into things. It could be a coworker and you're trying to like open up to a new project together, a community member. So it's interesting because we got all this like marriage union kind of stuff, and then these relationships that are mentioned are not very close relationships. So maybe it's like you just kind of contemplating like what it would be like with this particular person. And maybe that's why there's not a lot of like seeing eye to eye, because you haven't actually had a conversation about it. Like you haven't, maybe you're not able to like move forward towards anything that the first layer of cards talked about because of all these worries and fears, and those are coming up to the surface when you have this potential put in front of you so that you can deal with those things. But like it's up to you on what story you're going to tell about what potential it has, and it's up to you to alchemize the fears that you have in order to allow for the miraculous ending and the dream to come true. Because otherwise, like, it's like there's this nice potential for dream come true, but there's details that are holding it back, and those details can absolutely be alchemized, but they have to be actually alchemized. You have to actually do the work. And it makes sense that this person over here wasn't really emotionally invested, right? Because there's nothing for them to emotionally invest in yet. This is a literal, like, just a potential. It's like, why would this person invest in a potential marriage and union and face all the blockages if they don't even know, because no conversation has been had, They don't even know that's a potential. They don't even know that's what the other person wants or thinks of, or, and if it's a stalker, it's like, is this even appropriate? Like definitely back the heck up and have a conversation, right? And if it's a new connection, it's like when you go into a new connection, is it okay to be thinking about bondage already, like, or are there a few steps before that, are you compatible? What does the other person like? What do they want? What is valuable to them? What are their dreams? So if you don't have an intimate, friendly relationship with this person, but you see a potential for marriage and a solid union, and that's what you want, it does seem like there's been some steps missed, and it could be just because the dreams and the potential is being felt and visualized, and a conversation needs to be had to see where both people stand. Because if one person's having all these like fantasy dreams and stuff, it doesn't necessarily mean it's like not possible, but it does mean like, of course the other person's not going to invest in something that they're not involved in. Like if you have a professional relationship with somebody, they're not having, there's a professional line of conduct. It's how you conduct yourself in a professional manner, which is not by crossing the line and flirting and getting emotionally invested, other than just humane kindness, you know what I mean? If you're stalking somebody, they're not going to be emotionally invested. And if you do have a stalker, you do need to like take precautions. You do need to like make sure you keep that level of professionalism and make sure there's no blurry lines, and make sure that you are, conducting yourself in a way that you feel safe and protected and ready to move forward, if you need it. And not share, it makes sense to not share finances with somebody who is, not in that type of relationship with you. So if this is a coworker as well, like maybe they want to know how much you make or things like that, it's like, no, you're keeping a professional boundary, you're keeping a professional line. This is a community member, and they want to get to know you better. Like, you have to assess that situation, and you get to decide. Like, it does seem like communication is going to be very important here. There is some treasure to be found here. Sometimes the treasure is below the surface of like what this makes you feel, right? Like if you have a fear of commitment and union, like that might come up for you even when your coworker approaches you for a relationship. So even if you don't pursue a relationship with the coworker, there's still gold here if you look at the reasons why you're not able to even entertain that. And it doesn't mean that you will entertain it after you do so. It just means like there is something here for you to gain and to learn about yourself from this situation. Paying attention to the details, like it's like getting more comfortable with yourself, getting more comfortable with who you are, what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, what's important to you, and how to conduct yourself in some, kind of odd situations. Because, like, if somebody is like codependent, they might approach every single relationship in their life as, this is a potential partner for me. You know what I mean? Like, or this person has something to offer me. And so it's understandable if people have dealt with people like that they kind of hold back an emotional investment, because that is something that is like a red flag, It might help for you to communicate with somebody else and tell somebody about the situation you're in. We did have house guests and responsibility. So it's just like taking care of your responsibility, which is really just for tending to yourself. Let's see if there is a stalker, you might need to say, leave me alone. You know what I mean? If the stalker is saying, you're my favorite, and you've like never even met them or something, it's like, leave me alone. And then take the steps that you need to maintain yourself. But that's not the case for everybody. For some people, it's going to be a coworker or a community member. So there's, potential, because we did see that card that said that there's potential here. Where's that card? Yeah. We got let's explore together. Like there might be, for some of you, there may be actually something to explore here. And we've got my life is a constant stream of miracles. Right? Like imagine that this coworker and you hit it off because you were willing to explore together, right? Because one of you got the interest of the other, and then you were respectfully having a communication about that. So I feel like there's more than one situation here, and you'll know which is appropriate for you. And it's really important. This reading is an example of how important it is to depend on ourselves. That we are sovereign beings, and that we have our own guidance system built into us. And that when we listen to our own internal prompts, that we can navigate our situation very well. And that's why I make my readings just information to reflect on. Because I never want to decide for you. I always want it to be your responsibility. It's definitely not a card reader's responsibility to guide you in your life. It's a card reader's responsibility to offer you a reflection of information that reflects the energy that you have around you. Now, I can tell you that, if your desire for something is strong enough, that could be the predominant energy that you're exuding. And that could be what a certain card reader always taps into. But if they're just reading your desire, it doesn't mean that it's actually going to come true, because other people have free will. All right, so let's see what the Fair Relating deck says. Create the win-win-win. I win, you win, we all win. So say you had a stalker and you weren't interested. If you can use your kind heart to convey the message in a way that does not humiliate or embarrass them, that entices them to work towards their own freedom or a potential that actually is more realistic for them, It's like whatever you're doing, the solution is something that doesn't make somebody lose out, which even means on their dignity, Be an example. What is the example being shown to you? And what example are you being? Do you strive to be an example of a kind person who has the strength and the understanding of their own self and their own needs and wants, where they trust to express authentically? And they trust that whatever they have to say, when they're authentic and true to themselves and honest, that they can handle what happens next. Let's see, on patience. So also, it's like, don't go into this situation like having it all figured out. Like, you might need to let it unfold, because we did have that emotional creation, divine timing. It's like something is unfolding here, and we had baby steps, yeah. It's like there might be something different to learn at each step of the way in this process, depending on who you are in whichever situation that you're in. Okay, so if you are kind of watching somebody from afar, I'm going to ask what you should do. Because I don't know if that's healthy, you know what I mean? I don't think that's healthy. I think that signifies something unhealthy. Because it depends on how long you're doing it for, right? Like an afternoon of like people watching is a bit different than focusing in on one person and paying attention to everything they do without having communication with them, or periodically having communication with them that doesn't reveal the open, authentic motivations that you have, right? It's like, and you only interact with them under the guise of like whatever you want them to think. That is not healthy, right? That tells you that there's something within you that needs your love and your kindness. There's something within you that you're avoiding, that you're instead choosing to focus on someone else than be with yourself through something that obviously is a projection and a difficult thing that, you might be avoiding pain of by looking outside yourself. So if you're just, if you just glance at somebody's situation once on Facebook or whatever, that's different than looking at their stuff and all their social medias and tracking them down and finding their address and saving their pictures and doing readings on them to figure out who they are, what they're doing, who they're with, Like, that is not healthy, and that is not fair, right? Because energetically, this person, depending on who they are, they could become aware of that. And of course, they're not going to open up to somebody who's doing that. Okay. Now, I asked what to do. What if you are somebody who's in a situation like you're obsessive compulsive or something, you've got a Pluto obsession, a Plutonic obsession with somebody, you need to dissipate that. So first of all, understand your body. Like, what is your body telling you when you do this? Are you feeling tight? Are you clenching your jaw? Are you getting headaches? Is your body reacting to what it is you're doing? Because it seems like your body might be trying to get your attention on an emotional issue that's within you, and it may be manifesting as physical ailment now for you. Whether it be like celiac disease or indigestion or headaches, or your vision is failing, or maybe you could be obsessively looking at somebody else because you are inspired. And maybe you could realize that you are also an inspiration. So when the cards ask you, what example are you being? Think about that. Pretend your children can see everything you're doing. Pretend your friends can see everything you're doing. What example are you being? Pretend that you're inspiring others to know you as you really are, an open book. Pretend the veil was stripped and you were exposed for everything you're doing, because the truth will always come out. What example are you being, and is this how you want to inspire others? Give yourself a task that is really worthy of you. All this time and energy that you could be putting towards investing in your own self, in your own life. It really can be redirected, okay? You are just as valuable. You have everything to offer yourself. So to have an unhealthy obsession with watching somebody else's life is only a detriment to yourself. They're the same thing. You can't harm somebody else who's actually investing and working on themselves. Okay, so if you have heartbreak over that, right, if there's a grieving process over leaving that coping mechanism, just go through that. Be present with yourself through that. If there's a pain over rejection, go through it. Feel the rejection and love yourself through it. Become your own favorite. Know that everything that you admire in another exists in you. Okay, and who are the other people here? Coworker. Instead of trying to coerce somebody else to do something or whatever, it's like inspire them. It's like you be the example first. You go first. And same thing in the professional realm. And who is the other person we have here? We had a new connection. Okay. A new connection. Now you've come in contact with somebody. Is your gut feeling that this is something that you should proceed towards? Should you be vulnerable and share yourselves with them? Trust your body. Let your gut tell you. And ask yourself what it would feel like if you said this. And then feel in your body what that feels like. Your body is actually your navigation system, and you can trust it. Maybe consider the worst case scenario, which is that they say, leave me alone. And it's like, well, what are you going to do when that happens? You're going to create the win-win-win. If you have to still work with this person, for example, you don't want them to be uncomfortable. So you can, first of all, be prepared for that within yourself, that you can handle rejection. And then also, offer that, you are okay and that you understand that this is just not something they're interested in, that you're not interested in keeping some sort of tension or awkwardness between you. This is a lot of different scenarios in one here. We got patience as a virtue, and I just broke the deck here too. So you might want to just wait a minute and see how it goes first, right? Watch what's about to happen, because maybe things are shifting. Maybe you'll feel different after you consider some of the questions we've asked in this reading. Maybe when you sink into your body and really get in touch with how you feel, you're going to think about it different. Maybe you'll have a dream that will kind of enlighten you to a different perspective. And maybe when you see a door open, that's when you go through. So that patience is no, 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 until the door opens. Okay? All right, so that was confusing. It wasn't a concise story like a lot of the readings have been. So just remember that it's information to reflect on. Only take what is helpful to you and leave the rest. So thank you for being here. Thank you for participating. I appreciate your participation in the reading, and perhaps we'll see you in a future one. Bye now.